Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
Welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Student Body Right USC podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and as always, I am podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle. Not fun times, I guess. I got my buddy Evan Desai talk a little USC football here with us during this time period. I'm just gonna start real quick. It's just with it's just like it's almost like this team is more talented than last year, but last year was a better team. Like you kind of get that feeling from them. It's just weird, and then it's just like a weird like cloud over the team. It's just like kind of this thing, like like Taki Curtis is getting more snaps than so and so, even though so and so has way higher rating than him, like Rajon Davis and like Eric Gentry, stuff like that. It's just kind of weird. I just don't know what like the game plan was to go into the game, because Notre Dame, for them to get to let's just say the high watermark, if it was a normal game, was 30 points. They're so putrid offensively that you have to give them the ball at the 5-yard line, just like what USC did. You had to keep on turning the ball over. Once you get that first or second turnover, like, what's next? Like, you know what I mean? It can't be like, okay, if it doesn't go right on that first drive, I'm not scoring 40 points a game, then it's all done. I thought last year they had plays already set up. I think you can remember the play they hit where they kind of almost like a Kyle Shanahan play where they faked to the running back, bootleg action, gave it to Lake McCree, and he hurdled somebody down the sideline. Like those things look like they were ready to go. I don't know what is going on with the offense, but they lost this game on the offense side of the football, and that's where Lincoln Riley lives. So, what are your thoughts about him and what happened in South Bend?
Well, the worst part about it is that we didn't seem to know what the hell the game plan was, despite them having 6 weeks to rotate guys in and out and figure out what they want to do. Plus, essentially a bye week. I know they obviously started a week earlier than everybody else, but just, there was plenty of time to figure out what exactly their game plan was going to be against a team like Notre Dame, a team that's supposed to match up well against USC, but a team that USC, balled up last year. Honestly, you mentioned that game. You mentioned a lot of the play calling was really creative. It's really good in general. I remember there were a lot of great plays. Jordan Addison earlier in that game. I know you mentioned that that was a great play. And then they started down, looked terrible at first, but the defense kind of kept them in it, kind of minimized the damage off of those turnovers. And you're kind of just sitting there saying, okay, well, maybe it's just like UCLA last year, where you're playing a team in the early 20s, or UCLA was ranked a little bit better when we played them last year, but and you're down, you're on the road. But, eventually it's Caleb Williams, it's Lincoln Riley, guys are going to step up. We're going to get back in this game. And the weirdest thing was there were times when USC got back in the game, but then there was just ridiculous kind of self-inflicted problems, and the offense never really recovered. The offense was trying to do too much, and that's really what it comes down to. I think the offense trying to do too much, the offense pressing, which you usually don't see from a Lincoln Riley team. You usually don't see that from guys like Caleb Williams, some of the other players that I felt were kind of looking to do a little bit too much. And, that's the blueprint, though, to beat USC.
Yeah, I don't think it's like they shouldn't be, to be quite honest with you, and you mentioned that there shouldn't be a blueprint. Like, there shouldn't be a blueprint. This team is ridiculously talented. Like, I don't want to see the sidearm bubble screen. Like, if you're gonna do that, fake it so that the guy blocking goes down the field. Like, I've seen that play by a bunch of different people as well. Like, you got to show something a little bit different. And like, I think they came in with just the same old, and they kind of just blitzed their way to getting to Caleb Williams. And like, I don't know what was going on with the offensive line. The communication, even at the very beginning of the Arizona State game, the communication with the offensive line and Caleb Williams has not been there. I don't know if it's Dietich being the center. I don't know what's going on as far as that goes, but he's taking a lot of unnecessary hits. You would think a team that has, like you said, been together for a long time now, all that stuff is practiced out. Like this shouldn't be like they should have run this offense silently, and then not have to worry about the noise and everything like that. The fact they weren't able to do that is just crazy, and it's just like it's tough because like yes, it's a rival loss, and Notre Dame fans, whatever. And you also Notre Dame team who's not going anywhere. Like there's two losses, they're not making the playoff. Like they're not doing anything. They're miserable offensively. They score more points in this game than the previous three games combined. Like it's where you look at it, it's just bad football in every aspect of the way you would look at it. And I just don't know why they weren't able to just to handle those kind of things in that situation. Like it was just really a poor performance.
No, absolutely. And I think that who is the running back that I think he played for the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL that was on the halftime show? Do you remember who that was? What's his name? He's on NFL Network too.
Oh my God, Robinson.
Robinson, right. So I remember he was saying, just take what the defense gives you in the second half and you'll be able to get right back in it. And that was absolutely true. And when USC was doing that, I felt like they were pulling within 11 points a couple of times. Yeah. But then, and it was like, can they overcome these, ridiculous penalties? But when you're making really bad penalties like USC was throughout the game, what that means is you're undisciplined. And what do undisciplined teams do? They give up huge plays on special teams. They make a lot of mistakes on special teams. And sure enough, they ended up scoring that kickoff return for a touchdown. You mentioned how bad Notre Dame's offense is. We saw it. Whenever they didn't get a short field, I believe they scored 10 points the entire game that weren't off of turnovers or kickoff return for a touchdown. It was like USC was right there. They could have – so many of these just ridiculous kind of self-inflicted errors are what cost them the game. And that was a big play, that return. And I think that the encouraging thing is that if USC does just take what the defense gives them, their offense is going to be just fine, and their defense should have gained a lot of confidence based off of how they played in the last game. Again, 2 of those touchdowns came directly off of one of them being a scoop and score, another kickoff return, and then all but 10 of the rest of the points were off of short fields. They should gain some confidence, and I think that there absolutely is a way for USC to turn this around, but it's just frustrating because, and we can get into this a little bit later, but we've grown accustomed to Caleb Williams knowing better in big spots like this. And this time the line just didn't protect him. And I think he just didn't know what to do. And he was just kind of trying to play hero ball, whether that was his fault or not. The offense it didn't end up happening. Nobody really stepped up.
Yeah. He's not used to punting, but you got to punt. Like, what I mean? Like, it's third down. You're playing under part of being, where where he is. And mentally, I know this is kind of very similar to he had a really poor performance in the Oregon State game last year. He's allowed to have a game like that, and he's allowed to have a game where he struggles, but you got to rein him in and say, listen, look who we're playing. This team is not very good. Offensively, our defense is not. If we give them a long field every time, we're good. In this ball game, and that's what they couldn't do. You mentioned the kickoff return for a touchdown. Can the kicker, I always forget his name, can Dennis Lynch reach the end zone on a kickoff? If he can't reach the end zone, can Tyler Robes reach the end zone? Because this defense just literally needs somebody to kick it out the back of the end zone, just so it's a touchback, just so they have to go the length of the field against this defensive line that is actually one of the best parts of this defense, where they can get to the quarterback. When they're backed up, most of the time people are just going to run the football, and then you're going to have these linebackers can just fire and just go get the ball and put them in third and longs. Stop kicking. I don't want to see a ball returned. You don't have a dedicated human being for that job. Make your job easier and have them kick it out of the back of the end zone.
No, I completely agree, because when you talk about what this defense's identity wants to be when they're at their best, the whole speed D situation, they are, it's in, how would I say this? I would just say their identity would be it's starting up front and them getting in the backfield quickly. So you said, there's going to be opportunities for the defensive line to really go to work if they're pinned back like that, or even if it's just touchbacks, even just touchbacks every time.
Touchback.
who knows? Maybe one time they end up deciding, they get frustrated, they try to run it out, and then they end up having a bad return. Maybe they cough up the ball. That's how special teams mistakes happen. You just
You
got to
get
stay
a
in cues, and so
you get a holding call, on
exactly, yeah.
return. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
absolutely. And USC themselves does that. So they know all about that. And I just think, like, yesterday we kind of saw some situations where the USC defense bended a little bit, but certainly didn't break. Now, can you imagine putting them in situations where it's not even just that that they can bend but not break, but it's that they can actually have some leverage to go make some big plays. And Utah's offense isn't the best offense. I thought they had a pretty decent week this last week, but there's an opportunity there.
It's against Cal.
No, yeah, it is against Cal. Yes, that is definitely true. And there is an opportunity there next week, and everything still is in front of them. Lincoln Riley was kind of right about that in the press conference. And so
Until you get that, until this loss needed to be a close loss to Washington or a close loss to Oregon. That's what they need this first loss to be. Like that's really why it hurts, because you're playing they're gonna fire this offensive coordinator in Notre Dame after the season's over, because this was a guy who Marcus Freeman didn't even want. So he kind of got forced onto him. So he's gonna be gone regardless. He threw one pass, and then they probably, that play might not be open against USC if the game is normal, because they had to take a chance defensively at some point when you're down by that much late in the game. So still no excuse, whatever. But just saying in general. But it's just a really, I mean, that showing is just not a showing that you cannot, when you're trying to get to where Alabama's and the Georgias and all these other squads that we try to talk crap on sometimes once in a while, you got to do a better job of being able to perform in that moment. Like you cannot have a game where you give up 40 points like Georgia, Alabama, like none of these teams are giving it. Notre Dame is not scoring 20 points against some of these teams. You just cannot offense. You cannot allow your offense you got to tell Caleb Williams, okay, after the second one, okay, dude, we're punting. Like if it's not there, we'll punt. We'll play defense. Okay. And then also, like, can I see the play with Marshawn Lloyd again? Can I see that? That was a nice little wrinkle play. Like those are the kind of things that I'm expecting. Like those plays. I mean, he's the best transfer. He and Barrett Alexander. A lot of other transfers have been hit or miss. Like Muhammad's been pretty good on the edge. But what's his name? The guy Anthony Lucas has been up and down. They don't play Kyan Barrs only on rundowns. But he has been solid there. But they've been the up and down parts. I mean, Jack Sullivan is still MIA. I don't think he's made a tackle yet this season. Seems like he's not done much there. So, it's nothing wrong. I mean, nothing wrong with running the football a little bit. I think now we have to focus on, now that the Heisman is gone. Like the Heisman's gone. Like the back-to-back Heisman's is over. Like if you have that mentality that the Heisman's are over and then you want to just win games, that's where I think the mindset should go. And then you're playing another bad offensive team in Utah. Yes, they're tough. Yes, they're physical. Yes, they can. Yes, you've beaten them. I mean, you haven't beaten them in last year, and this would be your third straight loss to Utah, which would be horrible. I mean, the quarterback's not even playing. His kneecap is like basically dislodged from his leg. He's having a hard time recovering from that. Probably won't have an NFL career. Cam Rising now, who knows? Just like they just got. I mean, like you got to be able to rein this, and they haven't played. I mean, something about that bye week, man, is really just. I mean, they have not played a single game as a complete team all season, ever since that moment.
No, for sure. And when I think about how Caleb Williams can bounce back from this, because I know you mentioned, get back into the mentality of just relying on Lincoln Riley's bag, relying on the running game. And I mentioned kind of taking what the defense gives you. So something you said a few months ago, actually, you said that when you're actually watching Caleb Williams play, specifically when you're watching the film, you can tell that a lot of these big plays that he makes, when he does the thing where he runs around in circles and he somehow finds somebody 60 yards down the field, makes a touchdown, oftentimes there are other plays in front of him that he could make, but he's just so dang talented and his
Yeah.
receivers are so damn good that
Yeah.
he's able to wait and he's able to trust that, and he finds those plays. It works for him all the time. It's worked for him every single game with USC except this last game. What I just want to see is when you're going up against a team like a Notre Dame or a Utah that simply just has a better defense, the talent differential between their defenses and teams like Colorado, Arizona
Stanford.
It's Utah has talent, has much more talent than that. They're at least a lot better coached than that.
Yeah.
When you're going up against a Utah or Notre Dame, go ahead and just take some of those checkdowns that aren't even real checkdowns. There's still guys that are going to pick up big gains.
Yeah.
And if you have an opening, just take off. You have a crazy, you're great as a runner. I'm not saying go get hit and go try to, juke spin 18 defenders. But if you have a lane, just go run north and south, go slide, pick up the yards. That's really what I want to see come into this game against Utah. And realistically, if he just focuses on that, says, the Heisman, I'm not thinking about the Heisman. I'm just going to focus on, getting back in the mentality of just playing winning football. He can essentially do that against every team but Oregon, in the sense that Oregon is the only team left from the schedule that's going to have comparable talent levels to USC. So if he can just trust his X's and O's, trust who he is as a player, I 110% believe that he can get right back on track. This offense putting up the big type of could just be scoring up, racking up the type of points they were putting up against some of those lesser competition teams and doing that against the Utahs, the Washingtons, the Oregons.
I mean, you can look at the bright side of that, the fact that majority of these games, I think the only one of the ranked opponents who they play coming up is on the road is at Oregon. All the other games are at home. So that's something that's a positive thing. And they drop. I mean, for them to get back into that conversation to move up the polls, they have the opportunity to do it. It has to start this week though, and you cannot. I mean, it just gotta. I mean, it doesn't even matter at this point, because when they win that game, if they win that game against Utah, they're gonna say, even though Utah is good, people are gonna say, oh, Cam Rising didn't play. So it's really gonna be get down to getting the ship right, winning next two games, and then getting ready for Washington and homecoming, which is an interesting situation for homecoming for it to be Washington. I thought that you usually do that against a team you're gonna beat their ass. So that's kind of crazy. Lincoln Riley. So you left Oklahoma, came to USC. So now you find out. They say that's saying where you say you fuck around and you find out. Now you're gonna find out what it's really like to be the USC head coach after this loss, because it was all roses. It was all whatever. Then you had the one little comment that I don't know why it came out of your mouth, Lincoln, because you're such a good communicator and you don't really say much. But when you said the trained eyes comment after a bad defensive performance, I don't know if you heard that one. That was one that people are not letting it go, because you're basically calling people stupid, which is which you can't do in that moment, because what we're seeing is what the defense was doing at the time. So you got to just be honest with that part of it. I get you want to protect your players, all stuff like that, whatever. But now you're the heat is on. You have the Heisman Trophy winner on your team. You're in a situation where people are expecting you to compete. You're down to 18th now. You dropped 8 spots in the poll for you to get back up to there, to even to be that team that's hot late and say, okay, let's just put USC in there. You gotta find some way to turn this around and turn around in a big way. I mean, it's not even like they need to beat Utah. They kind of need to they haven't really smashed the squad in a long time. They kind of need to kind of smash the squad. I mean, they really and smash a team that's a really good team.
No, yeah. I mean, with the untrained eye comment, I mean, I'm not as upset about it as a lot of people were, just in the sense that he's got to have confidence in his coaching and Alex Grinch's coaching. He's got to have confidence in his players. I believe you mentioned something about that. And so he's of course, he's going to say something like that. He's kind of trying to get people off his back. That being said, you really got to back it up if you're going to talk like that. So yeah. I mean, I still like Lincoln Riley a lot, but then when you have a big loss of this, you mentioned they dropped to 18. You're not going to have as many allies as you once did. And you're. I
still love where we are, opposed to Clay Helton. I understand. I totally get that. But like, I'll let you continue. But like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm at war with Lincoln Riley. But I just know the pressures of that job. The same thing Lane Kiffin could talk about. The same thing Ed Orgeron could talk about. Like once something goes a little bit astray, I mean, then these sold out crowds that come into the Coliseum are gonna have some issues.
No, and that's very true for sure. And I think that, I think there was a little bit of I think the media really did not like that comment. And I know there was, a little bit of some issues that the media had with him on that story about him. I think it was Solomon Bird. No, it wasn't Solomon Bird. There was some story that, do you remember that a few weeks ago where he like USC tried to say like you're tried to suspend a reporter's media credentials? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did see that. Story. Yeah.
So, there was that whole thing and they let him back in, it's all good, but
Did he report on an injury though? Was that what it was? He reported on an injury?
It wasn't. It was he reported on a comment that was said by a player to another player.
Oh, on the sideline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know like where it was, but I know that that's what happened. And
it wasn't said to him, but it was said around him, and he reported it. Yeah.
And so I know a lot of the media was upset about that. I'm not entirely sure they're loving Lincoln Riley right now. But I think that if you want to prove that you've got that trained eye, this is your opportunity. Like I said,
gotta do it.
You've got a lot in front of you, and you are still in it because, it is only one loss. It was a ranked loss. It was on the road. There are ways the committee can justify this if USC is playing like a top 4 team at the end of the year. USC fans remember when, they had that 2016 team that started off 1-3. And then people were saying, oh my God, you got to put them in the playoff. And the only reason they didn't was because they had 3 losses, but they were playing so well. Like it's easy to get back into that conversation.
Yep.
If you take care of business, and USC has better players than Utah, this is, it's put up or shut up. And, if they lose and it's a bad defensive performance, that's going to be a really bad look for just Lincoln, for the staff in general.
If they lose that, if they lose it all, like, I mean, if you can't, you can't lose 3 straight games. I mean, like, I'm not Willingham is willing. He's one of the best coaches in the country that people don't talk about. Like, I want people to understand that I have total respect for the Utah Utes. They have people who play on Sundays on that team. Like they defensively, they got people who get drafted all the time on that roster. But at the end of the day, man, like you cannot lose that game. And I think it's one of the things that's one of the little things. I don't know what I don't get is like I don't understand the concept of, and I gotta do more research on it. Like how many teams don't have a special teams coach in college football? Like I don't know why you wouldn't want that maybe that pressure or that just ease your mind. Like, okay, I don't gotta worry about that. I got somebody taking care of that. I got what's about taking care of kickoffs, taking care of field goals, taking care of all that stuff. If I want to do a fake, I got somebody who can do a fake for me at some moment. Things like that. So like I'm not sure why he doesn't do that, but it is what it is. But the whole kicking game is like a problem. I guess this was the best game tackling because this team is just they're such a slow offensive team. It's so easy to tackle. I mean, that's why I was just like, I don't know. I literally said in my head, unless they turn the ball over 3 or 4 times, they're gonna win this game, and they turn the ball over 3 or 4 times. We talked about a lot of different things with this, and just how to turn everything around. Dorian Singer, like another guy who's kind of like that. It's weird that they haven't had a connection, because usually when they make a move like this, transfer portal move like this, the person comes in and they're good to go. Like Addison came in, good to go. Listen, he's a different player than Addison. He doesn't have that, that blinding speed, whatever. But Lloyd came in, boom, no problems. Like whatever. What are your thoughts about Dorian Singer and why that connection has not been? I mean, he was all Pac-12. I mean, all Pac-12 last year. He's just struggling this year.
I'm pretty shocked, honestly. I thought that he was a perfect fit for this offense. And I think that there's been a lot of guys rotating in and out as far as the receiver group goes. I still think the receiver group is very good. And I think that, that's part of why there are so many other options for Williams to go to. Mm-hmm. But, I am pretty puzzled as to how it's 7 games now. He really hasn't made a big impact. but I wouldn't necessarily count him out in the sense that I remember last year everybody counted out Brendan Rice about this time, and then all of a sudden he went nuts in the Pac-12 championship game and he went ballistic in the Cotton Bowl, and now he's caught what is it, 8 touchdowns already? I mean, at least 7. He's at least had on an average of 1 a game at the very least. So I mean, I don't necessarily think you should count him out. I do think that Lincoln Riley, I was a little bit confused with some of the depth chart decisions he's had a receiver at times, sometimes where, I'm hearing that, Kyron Hudson has been the best player in camp. I love Kyron Hudson. I'm really glad to hear that. But I just think that, like, there have been some times where he's played guys like Kyron Hudson and some of the other guys who I would assume would be just a little bit lower on the depth chart due to not necessarily having the experience that a guy like Dorian Singer has, playing at a really, really high level and giving him that chance to really succeed. So that there might be something kind of going on there, which is part of why the chemistry really isn't clicking. Not to like single Hudson out or anything. I'm just saying, like, I think that there's just been so much rotation, and I think that probably should have stopped at a certain point during that easy stretch during the first half of the season. I think that it's good to rotate guys in and out, but I think the goal should be to put your best foot forward at the beginning of the game, blow somebody out, let the reserves play in the second half. I think that's kind of how it should be as an experience.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it should be Rice. You Rice, Washington, and Branch. If Branch is healthy, if Branch isn't healthy, then you can mix somebody in. The problem is, I gotta say one thing too, is like the guy who I'm just really kind of just out on is Mario Williams. Like, he's just been a drop machine. Like, he just drops the ball all the time. Had a fumble, scoop and score that he gave up. I think the thing about it is I'm not sure how much Zach Branch played. How many snaps he played in this game on offense, but he obviously with an ankle injury, that's fine. I think they could use a little Deuce Robinson on this team. Like, you know what I mean? Like, put him I know he's labeled as a weapon, but if you're going to throw the ball anyway, give Lake McCree and give Jude Wolf, you're not throwing the ball to them and that much anyway, give him an opportunity there, because if you get him in the open field, he's so fast, it's going to be difficult for anybody to stay in front of him. But yeah, it's not all doom and gloom. Like I said, I told everybody I'm gonna ride with them until they get that. I'm riding with them the whole season anyway, but until they get that second loss, then when they hit that second loss, then it's gonna be you have a different perspective on it. You gotta move on. You gotta move on from national championship talk, because there's too many teams ahead of them who don't even have a single loss yet. And so it is what it is as far as that goes. Anything else you want to add to the loss? Look back at Notre Dame before USC goes to take on Utah coming up Saturday.
Not so much. Just one more point that I feel like I don't want to single out Mario Williams. That's definitely not what I want to do right now. Yeah. But just since you brought it up, there are other players on the team that weren't taking what the defense was giving them as well. And what I mean, I know, because I've said a million times, Caleb needs to take what the defense is getting him. You're probably sick of hearing me say that, but I'm just trying to get the point across. It wasn't even just him. An example of that is down 21 on Saturday, and Caleb Williams throws that ball on the left sideline to Mario Williams. And instead of just running north and south and picking up those, 7 yards and getting out of bounds, whatever he would have had, he tried to make him miss. That's fine. You can try to make a defender miss. Try to make him miss once, and then go run forward and pick up the 7 yards, get out of bounds. Mm-hmm. He tried to make him miss like 7 times, kind of just doing that juke thing. He was just not really working out, and he didn't really pick up anything. Ended up losing yards, fumble, scoop and score. So I'm not trying to pick on Mario Williams. I like Mario Williams. I'm just trying to say I think the team as a whole just needs to stop pressing so much and needs to stop trying to go for the home run. Take what the defense gives you, as I've said a million times. I do think good things will happen, because I know this offense is built for it. I know we've seen this offense play really well in big games. We've seen it for 7 straight years now. They have it. They have what it takes. Just play inside your game.
Yeah, it makes sense. Especially when you're a guy like Caleb Williams who says, I don't necessarily want to run, or like to run. To me, it's a great opportunity for him to just get rid of the ball, let the playmakers do their thing, and keep everything going. They can still be a high scoring offense too, without having to go fast all the time. I think sometimes you got to change the tempo back, and then if you want to go up tempo again, you can do that. But I think sometimes the teams are ready for it for you to go and get to the line quickly. And a lot of times, when the communication isn't crisp on the offensive line, it's leading to Caleb Williams getting hit or getting sacked. So I think it's something else to look for. When you have a loss like that, I think it's easier to bounce back from that than it is a close loss. So we'll see what the Trojans have in stock coming up this weekend. But first loss of the season at Notre Dame. Notre Dame. It's like I said, it just wasn't a good game at all for them. So we'll see if they can bounce back. All right, Evan. I appreciate the time, man. Take care.
Peace out. Appreciate it, Dwayne.
All right, y'all. Fight on.
Right on.